Just after sunrise, a small sandy mound on the edge of the Kalahari begins to stir. A narrow tunnel entrance, barely wider than a fist, exhales a puff of warm underground air. Then a head appears, dark eyes, a pointed snout, fur the color of dry grass. This is a meerkat, and the burrow behind it is home to an entire family that has spent the night pressed together against the cold. Most people know meerkats as the upright sentries of the African plains, standing on their hind legs, scanning the sky for hawks. But standing guard is only one part of their day. The far more demanding part happens closer to the ground, in a partnership most visitors to the savanna never get to witness: the cleaning of a warthog. Warthogs are covered in coarse bristles, deep skin folds, and thick hide, exactly the kind of terrain that ticks and biting insects love to colonize. A warthog cannot reach every fold of its own body, and scratching against a termite mound only solves part of the problem. So from time to time, a warthog will approach a meerkat group and simply lie down in the dirt beside them, as if presenting itself for inspection. This is not an accident. It is closer to an invitation, and the meerkats accept it eagerly. One by one, they climb onto the warthog's back and flanks, small claws finding grip in the bristles, noses working through hair to reach the skin underneath. Every tick, every hidden larva, every hitchhiking parasite becomes a target. For the meerkats, this is not charity. It is one of the easiest meals available on the savanna. Protein-rich, slow-moving, and delivered directly to their claws without the need for digging or searching. For the warthog, it means fewer parasites draining its blood, fewer irritated patches of skin, and a moment of stillness in an otherwise cautious existence. But not every meerkat on that warthog's back is simply feeding itself. Scattered through the group are individuals whose behavior looks slightly different. Quicker bites, a slight pause before swallowing, an occasional retreat back toward the burrow entrance rather than continuing to forage. These are the mothers and the helpers, the members of the group whose responsibility extends beyond their own hunger. Deep beneath the sand, in a side chamber of the burrow connected by narrow tunnels, a litter of meerkat pups waits in the dark. Usually 2 to 5 of them, born blind and nearly hairless, completely dependent on the adults returning from the surface. Meerkat pups do not simply wait for their own mother. In this species, virtually the entire group takes part in feeding and guarding the young, a rare level of cooperative care among small mammals. So when an adult meerkat finds a fat tick on the warthog's shoulder, that catch does not always go straight down its own throat. Sometimes it is carried, still struggling, back across the open ground toward the burrow entrance. The adult pauses at the opening, checks the surroundings once, then disappears underground with the meal still held in its jaws. Inside the nursery chamber, the arrival of an adult triggers immediate movement. Tiny pups that have been huddled together in a pile turn toward the sound and scent of the returning helper. Their eyes may still be sealed shut in the first days of life, but their sense of smell and hearing are already sharp enough to distinguish a family member from a stranger. The adult drops the food near the closest pup, sometimes nudging it gently until small jaws manage to close around the prize. This is not efficient in the way a parent bird stuffing a chick's throat is efficient. Meerkat pups have to learn to handle solid prey almost from the start, biting, chewing, occasionally losing their grip and having to try again. This process repeats dozens of times a day, with different adults taking turns between guarding the group up top, foraging on their own, and ferrying food down into the burrow. On a good day, when the warthog visit yields plenty of ticks, the pups eat well. On a lean day, the whole group must supplement with grasshoppers, beetle larvae, and the occasional scorpion, expertly disarmed of its sting before being brought underground. While the pups are still blind, their world consists entirely of touch, sound, and the smell of a burrow lined with sand, old grass, and the scent of every family member who sleeps there. They do not know that above them lies an entire savanna of warthogs, hawks, jackals, and dry golden grass stretching to the horizon. Their entire universe for now is a dark chamber and the rhythm of adults coming and going. Around 10 days of age, changes begin. Fur starts filling in along their backs, replacing the nearly bare pink skin of the newborn stage. Eyes that were sealed begin to show the first hint of movement beneath thin lids. Legs that could barely support their own weight start to push against the sand floor of the chamber, testing strength that will soon be needed for climbing. By roughly 3 weeks, the first pups attempt the journey toward the tunnel that leads to the surface. This is not a solo adventure. An adult, often an older sibling from a previous litter serving as a dedicated babysitter, stays close, blocking the pup from wandering too far and watching for danger overhead. The first glimpse of daylight is often met with a flinch, eyes narrowing against brightness the pup has never before experienced. Outside, the world is louder and larger than anything the burrow prepared them for. Adults call out warnings when a hawk's shadow crosses the ground. Other pups tumble over each other in mock scuffles, practicing movements they will need for real fights and real foraging later in life. And somewhere nearby, a warthog may already be settling down into the dirt again, patient, waiting for the cleaning crew to arrive. This is where true learning begins for a young meerkat. Watching an adult approach a resting warthog, climb onto its back, and extract a tick with practiced precision teaches the pup more than instinct alone ever could. At first, the young meerkat only observes from a safe distance, ears forward, body tense with curiosity mixed with caution. Gradually, under close supervision, pups are allowed closer to the warthog itself. An adult will sometimes catch a slow-moving insect, disable it just enough to make it safe, and drop it near a pup instead of eating it outright. This staged, semi-live prey lets the youngster practice the bite and kill technique it will need for the rest of its life, all while surrounded by the protective presence of the group. Not every early attempt succeeds. A pup may lunge at a beetle and miss entirely, or grab a tick only to have it drop from clumsy jaws back into the warthog's bristles. The adults tolerate these failures without much visible frustration. Repetition, not punishment, is how the skill develops. Over the following weeks, coordination improves, reaction time sharpens, and successful catches become the rule rather than the exception. By 6 to 8 weeks of age, the transformation is dramatic. The nearly blind, nearly hairless pup that once depended entirely on food carried down a dark tunnel is now capable of climbing onto a warthog's back under its own power, however tentatively. Its fur has thickened into the sandy, faintly striped coat typical of the species. Its balance, once unsteady even on flat ground, now allows it to grip a moving animal's bristled hide without falling. The relationship between the meerkat group and the local warthogs does not end here. If anything, it becomes more routine. Warthogs in the area learn to recognize the presence of a particular meerkat colony and will actively seek them out when irritation from parasites becomes too much to ignore. The meerkats, in turn, treat certain warthogs almost as regular clients, approaching without hesitation when a familiar shape lies down nearby. For the young meerkat that once knew only darkness and the taste of food delivered by another's mouth, this becomes simply daily life. Sentry duty on the mound, foraging in the grass, and whenever a warthog offers itself for cleaning, climbing onto thick, bristled skin to search for a meal that also happens to keep a much larger neighbor a little healthier. Eventually, this same young meerkat will take its turn carrying food back into a burrow of its own, whether as a parent or as a helper caring for someone else's litter. The pattern repeats across generations. A warthog lying down in the dirt, small clawed bodies climbing over its back, and somewhere beneath the sand, another set of pups waiting for the sound of returning family. This is the quieter side of a relationship most people only associate with cartoons and children's stories. Beneath the surface humor of a small mammal picking through a pig's bristles lies a genuine partnership, built on mutual convenience, refined over generations, and passed down not through instruction, but through the simple, repeated act of one generation showing the next exactly how it is done.